You are looking at this century's first publicly documented case of what was once called multiple personality disorder. It's the 1950s, and this shy, conventional young woman appears to be just changing clothes, but she's not. Something is happening to Eve White.
No, I'm tired.
Could I speak with Eve Black, ma'am?
Sure.
Eve Black?
Her doctor has her under hypnosis and asks her to switch personalities.
Doctor.
Here, the playful and flirtatious one they call Eve Black.
Well, other than music, I have to have something to get me in the mood.
In 1957, her story would become the landmark film The Three Faces of Eve, which was the first most Americans had heard of multiple personality. But she now says Eve's three faces weren't the half of it.
Over a period of 44 years, I had 22 different personalities.
Tonight, you are meeting the woman whose story was told in that film 40 years ago. The real Eve. Her name is Christine Sizemore. She's been cured for 2 decades, but says she remembers how painful the attacks could be without hypnosis. So when you were about to switch, what would happen?
I'd get a severe headache, I'd turn red in the face, and then there was a dark period. And then the next personality would surface. And all of them had a fear of that dark period because they were so afraid that they might stop there.
And how long would most of them stay? A few hours?
Different periods of time. Some would stay a couple of hours, some days, some months.
We all feel that we have different sides, we have different moods, some days we don't seem ourselves. Mm-hmm. Is it related to that?
No, it isn't role-playing, and it is not mood swings. They are totally separate entities. They are so different. Their tone of voice changes. Their facial expressions are different.
She says some personalities didn't know the others existed or what they did.
Eve Black, what do you know of Eve Black?
Nothing except what I'm told.
In addition to the 2 Eves, there was a competent personality she called Jane. The 19 others were named by her children for their compulsions. The strawberry girl who ate only strawberries. She was a little wild and selfish. The purple lady who wore only purple but was kind and nurturing.
The purple lady was 59 years old, and the strawberry girl was only 21 years old.
But only in her mind. These 2 photos were taken just weeks apart. Chris Sizemore is 46 in both.
Growing up with a multiple, I had 22 different mothers.
Sizemore's son, Bobby, who is now a high school guidance counselor.
That was probably the most difficult thing, is that you never knew how long one of them would be around.
Bobby has said at one point you had gone to shop someplace and an alter came out who couldn't drive and who couldn't drive you home.
That often happened, so we had to sit there, and we sat there for 6 hours.
Some of the personalities, she calls them alters, painted self-portraits with vastly different images. One who collected playing cards painted herself as a candle melting away. And this was painted by an alter her children called Retrace Lady.
Wouldn't retrace her tracks. If she drove to town in one direction, she'd drive a mile around to come home in another direction. It's like she thought, if I don't repeat anything, then I'm not going to make mistakes like the others have made, and I will be the survivor.
They were in competition with each other.
Yes, everybody wanted to live. People do. People want to live.
People, you speak of them.
Well, they were very real to me.
You are sure that they're not faking it?
I've met some who are faking it. I have seen some who are, but I have also seen some and worked with some for many years who I'm convinced are not faking it, who that's the way they experience the world.
Dr. David Spiegel of Stanford University, a specialist on the disorder. He says new medical techniques are providing preliminary evidence of change inside the brain. These are brain scans from Boston University of a patient diagnosed with the disorder. 4 different personalities scanned in similar circumstances. There are noticeable differences, which doctors say they can't explain. 2/3 of those diagnosed report puzzling physical changes. Chris Sizemore, who is right-handed, says some of her alters could only paint with their left.
I had some that wore glasses and some who could read from the telephone directory without glasses. The purple lady had arthritis. very badly in both hands. When there was a change of personality, there was no arthritis, and of course, I don't have any today.
And Eve Black was allergic to nylon.
Right. And she was the only one in the group that was. That surprised me.
I think it's a hose.
One of the alters was blind, and
I went down to get my driver's license with my mother, and I came back out to the car, and there was a different person there. She had written me some notes saying, "Hi, I'm Andrea," which totally freaked me out because, A, I didn't know there was another personality, and B, this one's deaf.
And strangest of all, Sizemore says Retrace Lady once got an injection of a strong sleeping medication. But when another personality emerged,
Well, when the purple lady came out, she didn't feel any effect of the drug, and she was able to get in the car and drive home.
one personality could be put to sleep, and the other could resist the medication completely.
Yes.
I don't think it's anything mystical. I think, in fact, we have a lot more mind control over many of our body functions than we give ourselves credit for.
Because it does seem sometimes like acting.
You're right. The personalities that you encounter are rather two-dimensional.
And indeed, scientists don't call the disorder multiple personality anymore. They have a new, more accurate name: dissociative identity disorder. The alternate identities are now seen as fragments of a single personality, like a mirror broken into shards sometime in childhood. A child's brain comes with a natural capacity to shift mental states quickly. Notice how a baby's mood will switch in an instant. And then later, all children enter a phase where they lose themselves in games of pretend.
And they sometimes lose the boundary between what's imagination and what's real.
And so you're saying this is a necessary passage for children to go through?
Yes, it's a normal developmental phase.
But it's also a vulnerable phase. Some children subjected to sustained trauma or abuse in this period use that natural ability to fantasize to disconnect themselves from reality and its horrors.
When you're being traumatized, you want to find ways to distance yourself from the pain or the fear or the sense of betrayal. And if you've got a way of going in your imagination to a mountain meadow full of wildflowers rather than being there and being hurt, that's what you'll do.
In a handful of children, the protective disconnection doesn't reconnect.